Hi, my name's Bryce Jacobs, and I am a composer and musician, and I'm also the inventor of a bit of a bizarre guitar. It's a 7-octave guitar, originally based on the range and capabilities of a piano. I first had the idea when I was doing my Bachelor of Music, which was in classical guitar primarily, although I play every style of guitar that I've ever been able to think of or come across. I was falling in love with a lot of the orchestral music of the great composers, my favorite being Debussy. And these great composers, the music I love so much, the guitar was never really part of it. The only time you would usually hear guitar in orchestral music was in the form of a concerto, which would be featuring the guitar. The guitar as an instrument didn't really get taken seriously until mid-20th century when Andre Segovia proved what an invaluable instrument it was in transcribing a whole bunch of Bach pieces, among other composers, and all of a sudden it found its way into the music institutions of the world, and you can actually do a degree in it. And of course, not too long after Segovia, the rock and roll revolution really exploded with guitarists like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and David Gilmour, who really were able to capture an orchestral sound at times. They would be able to have that epic presence. So I thought to myself, with all the orchestral music I was listening to, that maybe if a guitar was based on a piano, that as you would with a piano reduction, maybe you could take this orchestral music and do a guitar reduction more faithfully. But just coming into my bachelor degree, I really didn't have the facility to pursue that. So I went back a few years later and did my master's in composition, like I said, and that's when I felt like I might have enough facility to get something started. The concept was originally a 10-string guitar because we've got 10 fingers on the piano, simple math. Then I took as a proof of concept Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, and I transcribed it for the guitar on the 10 strings, and it was fine. And I wanted to work out what the tuning could be for the guitar, and I thought, well, if I take a piano piece of music, it'll probably reveal itself and what's going to work. So just like the Overtone series, the guitar started off in wider intervals, octaves, fifths, then went to fourths and thirds, and even up to seconds. So I had standard tuning. But then I tried something more harmonically challenging. I chose Debussy's Clair de Lune, and next thing you know, I needed 11 strings, and then like a page or two off the end, I needed 12 strings. The good thing about that, when it came to building it, it meant that we could take existing guitar parts and we didn't have to go down the custom making too crazily. My bank account wouldn't have supported that as a student anyway. So the degree was basically around this guitar, the pieces I wrote for it as a solo instrument and as part of the orchestra, I guess in a bit of a hybrid type context. And then I had to do a thesis, which was fun. Soon after I created the guitar, it got quite a lot of notice in Australia. And then not too long after, I came to the US to try my luck, see if I could land something in the composing field. I was very fortunate that I was able to land a job at Hans Zimmer's Remote Control Productions with Ramin Djawadi, that then I went on to be a musician and a composer there, working with everyone, including Hans. And this guitar has been an ever-present force in my life, always turning heads. And the idea of manufacturing it would have been at the time such a niche thing, and it obviously takes a lot of technique to get around it. So I am officially the best and worst player in the world on it. So there's many multi-stringed instruments out there, now more than ever. But at the time, there were things like the Chapman stick, the war guitar, which were mainly tapping-orientated instruments, in some ways suited to a piano player more than a guitarist. This guitar had 12 strings, as I said, and each set of 6 went into pitch shifters. The higher strings went up an octave and the lower strings went down an octave. The stereo cable comes out of the guitar, it goes into a splitter box, and then into 2 pitch shifters, and that's how you get the range. And the range ends up being just a few notes off that of a piano. After studying and playing so much classical repertoire, I loved it, but I thought I just want to do the proof of concept on this instrument. So I did just a few pieces, like I said, Moonlight Sonata and Clair de Lune, and then I just wanted to write on it. I just wanted to explore and discover and find and fumble and just become closer to this instrument and see what it was really capable of. So I've used it on a ton of projects. One in particular is called Rush. If you watch Rush, you'll hear there's things going on with the guitars that aren't totally straight up normal. And at the end, in the credits roll, there's an all guitar piece that I created, and this guitar features, and it's the lowest thing you can hear. It's got this jut, 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 jut. So you'll know when you hear it. It kind of has that almost like a Moog pinning you to your seats, as Hans would say, but it's a guitar doing it. Not too long ago, Oliver Codd, Audio Ollie as he's known, approached me and asked if I wanted to do a sample library based on it. The timing was good because I always had thought up until that point, like, it's so proprietary, obviously I don't want to give any part of it away. But after a conversation or two, I felt the timing was right, and we started to discuss how would it be best represented as a virtual instrument. So it started off as a loop library, a one-shot library, and then we realized we had enough to justify actually making it a playable instrument in Kontakt. Parallel to this, Audio Ollie has been extremely innovative in his time, and this was one of, if not the first, don't quote me, virtual instruments that would time lock no matter where you played it. When I say where you played it, I mean within the bar or on the beat. A lot of other libraries, as you record, you'll hit the key and it won't catch, and you kind of hold it down until you come back and quantize it. With this, it'll catch. So even if you're not in perfect time, it will catch and it will let the loop play, which is a lot more inspiring than having to wait and come back and quantize it if you missed. It also has one-shots. So you've got everything from driving grooves to really strange ambiences. Now, Audio Ollie on the 7-octave guitar page on his website does a great overview demo of how to use it. So I'm not going to totally repeat that today, but what I thought I would do is just show you how I used it in a piece a little while ago. And even though it's great for the dark and ominous driven stuff, it also has a quality about it that can be put in a much warmer setting. A little while back, I reinvented a Christmas carol, and it was at the end of 2022. It had been a hell of a year for a lot of people all around the world, including America, and I think the last thing you feel at Christmas when you've gone through a hellish year and lost people is the ability to actually be able to celebrate. So in reinventing Silent Night, I wanted it more to be a peaceful wish of these people that had lost so much that they would have peace and quiet from the hurt that they'd been feeling throughout the year from their loss. You'll find it on Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and all that stuff. You'll also see a film clip on YouTube if you would like to check it out. We'll put the links in the description below. It's called Silent Night for Ukraine, and you'll see from the color scheme in my session that pretty much suggests that too. But it is meant to be all encompassing for many people that went through their own hell that year. So the piece starts with a choir of voices with a harrowing nature to it, and it finishes with me and a guitar and more like a final wish or prayer at the end. But in the middle, there's this warm kind of rolling band type track, which is where the sentiment of what I was discussing before is applicable. So this track got the backing of UNICEF, and I shared it round with the UNICEF links to be able to donate to try and make Christmas a little bit better for a lot of people that were truly suffering around the world, because we all get caught up in our Christmas stuff and we forget that there's people out there that are doing it pretty damn hard. So back to the technical musical stuff of this guitar. So first of all, I'll just show you a little bit of the guitar, and it's one of the great things about it is you could use it live. I'd love to see that actually, and have it as a singular instrument and actually do a performance on it. You could create a cue out of a singular performance. It's not something that you necessarily have to layer. If you're writing in a session, a DAW of some description, my one happens to be Cubase. In my workflow, I usually have a Kontakt instrument for every instrument. I don't use a lot of multis. I do for some of my template orchestral stuff, but for the most part, if I'm going to load up an instrument, I just load a singular instrument in, and in this case, it's Kontakt. That means that I have complete control over whatever I want to do to the Cubase channel. I don't often use effects in Kontakt, although they are there and there's some great ones. You can load up a number of patches within a singular instance of Kontakt. My thing with how I work, for what it's worth, is as I said, I just will have, if I've got 5 of these patches, the 7-octave patches, I'll have 5 different tracks, and that means I can attack each one however I want sonically from the DAW level. But the first thing I'll show you is how you can use it as a standalone Kontakt instance and be able to perform what can be the basis of a cue or if you were to use it live, how you can layer ideas as you go along playing. So let's go. So like I said before, you'll see a full rundown of how to use this on the Audio Ollie website, but to show you what I've got going on here, for each one of these, it's a different patch that can be loaded. This one I have here, oh, it's like a low pulse going on. I just have a bit of a delay on it. I'll leave that on for now so you get the idea. So up here, what you can do is with speed, if you want to use the speed function, which essentially means you can either double the time or half it. We're essentially turning that on by putting that to the ×2. And you'll see the yellow keys here. If I hit this, it now gives us double time. You can also go down to half time. I usually like to leave that on too. Reverse is as it sounds. If you click on these, basically the line underneath signifies whether it's on or not. Now with the reverse, got this red B flat here. If you want that. Legato is similar to what you would have with a string library as such. Basically it's one voice. Whereas if you turn that off, you could actually do a chord. Pitch lock means that it no longer follows the pitches of the keyboard. So if you want something rhythmical like then you can just play the keyboard like a percussion instrument. Now with the effects on, they're currently on. Once again, the line signifies that they're on. These green keys are where those effects live. Do that up here. Like that, lo-fi. That's cool. That reminds me, if you hit the mod wheel and activate it, then what you can do is bring it out of, I guess, the abyss. Now what I was talking about with the singular performance, so these red notes down here are linked to these different patches. Each patch I've loaded something. I think how many have I got? Have I got full 12? Oh yeah, I do. Jeez. So to turn them on and off, essentially you hit the red light above, and to select a patch, you can see up here that if you just select that, you get a whole bunch of options here. You got chugs, you got rhythm, you got tickers, low rhythm, so you got all the high stuff there. Low chugs, low rhythm, strums, feedback, harmonics, low rumble, and then a whole bunch of ambient stuff. I think I have a combination here. And you can see as I was turning off the channels before, that corresponds to the red keys down there. So you can see this is how to turn them on and off. So I've got them all going now, and you'll see the blue light signifies what key I've pressed and what patch has been loaded. So you can change on the fly. And the other great thing about it is that you can stack them on top of each other. So if we go here, like on this last key here, and if I load up an ambience. So now that I've loaded this ambient one shot, so that was just randomness on my part, but I think you get the idea of how you can build something from just loading up a few patches here. So let's look at this in context now. So if I play this in isolation, it might initially sound dark. Now that probably sounds quite strange on its own, but if we put it in context, I'm going to press play from that exact moment that I pressed play from before. So the guitar is in at this point, and I'll crank it up a bit too. So I'm going to press play at that same moment, and as we go, I'll push up the volume a little bit. Maybe we could put the film clip in at that point. I don't know. That might be a good idea. Just show this. There we go. So I've pushed it there so you can hear it. Context. Fade out on it. So I deliberately wanted to show that today because I think it's a bit more of a unexpected context to use this particular instrument library in. So that's the Bryce Jacobs 7-octave guitar by Audio Ollie, and it's volume 1. We are looking at doing a deeply sampled volume 2. This has been like a trial by fire, I guess, in a sense, for both of us. So like when I designed the prototype, I wanted a functioning model that I could use, and it's been professionally awesome. So we look forward to you guys enjoying it and hearing your feedback. And as I said, we're going to do a volume 2 at some point. It'd be great to know what you would love from that too. All right, well, thank you for joining me on that ride. I hope it's been worth the minutes and seconds you've watched this. And please go check this library out. I hope you get some great inspiration out of it. I know that I'm using it even though the guitar's sitting over there. So I must say something. But anyway, thank you, and we'll see you another time.